Picture this: standing on a cliff, the wind in your hair, and below you, a fjord so still it looks unreal. Norway's beauty isn't just seen, it's felt. From towering peaks to glowing waters, this country offers a landscape unlike any other. Ready to discover the best places Norway has to offer? Let's jump in. Norway is home to the world's longest road tunnel, stretching over 15 miles. It's also where you'll find the midnight sun. Places above the Arctic Circle experience 24 hours of daylight in summer. Oh, and did you know there are more than 50,000 islands off Norway's coast? That's a lot of exploring to do. Another fun fact: Norwegians consume more coffee per person than any other country in the world. With that much caffeine, it's no wonder they've mastered the art of enjoying the great outdoors no matter the weather. Senja is often called Norway's best-kept secret, and once you see it, you'll wonder how it ever stayed under the radar. As Norway's second-largest island, Senja delivers everything from razor-sharp peaks that slice the sky to sleepy fishing villages that feel like they belong in a dream. Driving along the national tourist route here is like flipping through a living photo album. Every turn reveals a scene more surreal than the last. You've got the iconic Segla Mountain, rising like a jagged tooth straight out of the ocean, and nearby, the fjords cut so deep into the island that they look like the earth has cracked open to reveal its core. Senja changes moods with the seasons. In summer, you get endless daylight and green hills rolling toward the sea. In winter, it's a frozen wonderland where the northern lights dance over snow-covered peaks. And the best part? It's still relatively uncrowded, so you can hike, kayak, or just breathe in the salty air without the buzz of mass tourism. Whether you're chasing waterfalls or simply watching the waves crash against the cliffs, Senja makes sure you never forget what wild, untouched nature feels like. Geiranger Fjord is what happens when nature shows off, and honestly, it's hard not to stare. Tucked into western Norway, this UNESCO World Heritage Site is the kind of place that turns even the most casual traveler into a full-on fjord fanatic. The water here is impossibly deep and eerily calm, surrounded on all sides by cliffs that rise like stone giants into the clouds. What makes Geiranger Fjord unforgettable are the waterfalls that tumble straight from the mountaintops into the sea, like the Seven Sisters, a curtain of water that falls so gracefully it looks choreographed, and the suitor, which legend says is forever trying to woo them from across the fjord. Every viewpoint feels like a masterpiece, especially from Flydalsjuvet or Ernestfingen, where the landscape stretches into a breathtaking panorama that almost doesn't look real. You can cruise through the fjord, kayak along its still waters, or hike the surrounding trails that lead you to abandoned farms, clinging to cliff faces like they were built by mountain goats. Geiranger Fjord doesn't just impress, it overwhelms in the best way possible, wrapping you in silence, scale, and that unmistakable sense that you're standing in the presence of something ancient and untouchable. The Lofoten Islands aren't just a destination, they're a living postcard that somehow outshines every photo you've ever seen. Located above the Arctic Circle, this chain of islands hits you with a kind of beauty that feels otherworldly, like nature put all its best ideas in one place. Think towering mountains rising straight out of the sea, beaches with white sand so soft it feels tropical, until you dip a toe in and remember exactly where you are. The villages here are tiny and colorful, like Reyne and Henningsvær, where red and yellow roerbuer, fishermen's cabins, sit perched on stilts above icy water. In summer, the sun refuses to set, casting everything in a golden glow that lasts all night. While in winter, the aurora borealis fills the sky with a swirling show of greens and purples. Lofoten is a paradise for hikers, surfers, kayakers, climbers, pretty much anyone with a sense of adventure and a love for the wild. Even just driving through the islands is an experience, with narrow roads winding between cliffs and coastlines that make you want to stop every 5 minutes just to stare. It's remote, it's raw, and it has a kind of silence that doesn't feel empty but full, like the land is speaking and you're finally quiet enough to listen. Oslo isn't just Norway's capital. It's the pulse of the country, where urban life and natural beauty collide in a way that feels effortless. The city is nestled between the Oslo fjord and dense forests, meaning you can go from sipping espresso in a minimalist cafe to hiking in the woods in under 30 minutes. But Oslo isn't just about location, it's about layers. You'll walk through streets where bold, modern architecture, like the iceberg-shaped Opera House or the mind-bending Dijkman Library, stands right next to medieval ruins and centuries-old buildings. The city is alive with culture. The Munch Museum holds the soul of Norwegian art, while the Nobel Peace Center reminds you that ideas born here echo around the world. Walk along the harbor at Aker Brygge, and you'll see ships swaying in the water while locals soak up the rare sun, or head to Grünerløkka, where murals, indie boutiques, and coffee shops give you a taste of Oslo's younger, rebellious side. Even the food scene tells a story. Where else can you go from foraged moss on a Michelin-starred plate to a reindeer hot dog from a street cart in the same afternoon? Oslo may not shout for your attention like other capitals. It doesn't need to. It knows that the more time you spend here, the deeper it gets under your skin. Hardangervidda is not just a plateau. It's an ancient, wind-scoured world that stretches so far and so wide, it feels like stepping into a forgotten realm. As Europe's largest mountain plateau, Hardangervidda is a place of extreme contrasts. In one moment, you're walking across vast, flat tundra where the sky feels impossibly close, and in the next, you're standing beside waterfalls that roar through steep gorges as if the earth itself is splitting open. This region is pure wilderness. The kind of wilderness where you might not see another soul for hours, except maybe a herd of wild reindeer silently making their way across the terrain. Hiking here is a rite of passage. Trails like those leading from Haugastol to Finse and beyond connect with the famous Hardangerjøkulen Glacier, one of the icy giants that feed Norway's countless waterfalls. The weather is unpredictable, the terrain unforgiving, and yet, that's exactly what makes it magnetic. Whether you're skiing across frozen lakes in winter or trekking under an endless summer sky, Hardangervidda has a way of stripping away all the noise. It doesn't ask you to conquer it. It challenges you to slow down, to listen, and to truly feel the weight of the land beneath your feet. It's raw, real, and absolutely unforgettable. Ålesund doesn't look like it belongs in Norway. It looks like it was plucked from a European fairy tale and dropped at the edge of the Atlantic. Rebuilt almost entirely in the Art Nouveau style after a devastating fire in 1904, the town's architecture is a swirling mix of turrets, towers, and curved lines that give it a romantic, whimsical charm. But don't let the pastel buildings fool you. Ålesund is surrounded by some of the wildest, most dramatic coastal landscapes in the country. Climb the 418 steps up to Oxla Viewpoint and the city unfolds beneath you. Narrow islands stretching out into the sea, jagged mountains looming in the distance, and a maze of waterways that turn Ålesund into a true island town. It's also the gateway to some of Norway's most iconic adventures. The nearby Jørenfjord is a hidden gem carved deep into the Sunnmøre Alps, and the open sea calls to kayakers, divers, and boaters alike. The vibe here is relaxed, almost slow motion, but there's always something happening beneath the surface. Whether it's a music festival, a fishing boat coming into harbor, or just the quiet hum of a place that knows exactly who it is. Ålesund doesn't try to impress. It simply exists in perfect balance between the man-made and the natural, the artistic and the untamed. Trolltunga and Preikestolen are two of Norway's most iconic hikes. More than destinations, they're personal challenges etched into stone, dangling above vast, ancient landscapes that defy belief. Trolltunga, or the Troll's Tongue, extends like a granite diving board 700 meters above the deep blue waters of Lake Ringedalsvatnet. Getting there is no casual walk. It's a 20-kilometer round-trip hike through stark, high-altitude wilderness that changes with every hour. You'll pass through valleys carved by glaciers, over boulder-strewn paths, and across icy patches even in July. It's long, brutal, and at times unforgiving. But when you finally reach the rock and see it thrusting into the void, your breath catches. You step out onto it carefully, knowing that behind you, the landscape drops away into a silence so complete it feels holy. Preakestolen, or Pulpit Rock, is no less dramatic. Its hike is shorter, about 8 kilometers, but the reward is just as massive. Rising 604 meters above the Lysefjord, the cliff is almost perfectly flat on top, like a giant altar to the elements. One step from the edge and there's nothing but space, and the glittering thread of the fjord slicing through the earth below. People sit here quietly, their legs dangling over the void, watching clouds drift beneath them. Together, Trolltunga and Preakestolen are the kind of places that demand everything from you physically, only to give back more than you knew you came for. They aren't just hikes, they're rites of passage. Svalbard Islands feel like the edge of the world because, in many ways, they are. Sitting halfway between mainland Norway and the North Pole, this Arctic archipelago isn't just remote, it's surreal. Everything about Svalbard defies expectations. The sun doesn't set for months in summer, and in winter, darkness wraps the land in a silent, icy shroud. Longyearbyen, the world's northernmost settlement with permanent residents, looks like a tiny outpost clinging to life in a frozen sea of white, but it's surprisingly lively with cozy cafes, a functioning university, and even an international seed vault buried in the permafrost to protect the future of the world's crops. But what really defines Svalbard is the wilderness. This is polar bear country, so much so that you're not allowed to leave town without a rifle and a guide. Glaciers dominate the skyline, and reindeer, Arctic foxes, and walruses roam the icy terrain. The silence here is otherworldly, broken only by the cracking of ice or the distant call of seabirds. If you're lucky, or maybe just brave enough, you can take an expedition onto the sea ice, or explore ice caves that glow a deep blue beneath the surface. Svalbard is not for everyone. It's cold, wild, and at times completely overwhelming. But if you're searching for a place that strips life down to its core and leaves you awestruck by nature's scale, there's nowhere else like it. North Cape, or Nordkapp, is where the road, and for many the continent, comes to a dramatic end. It's the northernmost point in mainland Europe that's accessible by car, perched 307 meters above the Arctic Ocean, with nothing but sea between you and the North Pole. Getting there feels like a pilgrimage. You drive for hours across the tundra, through endless daylight in summer or under thick northern lights in winter, until you reach the stark, wind-lashed cliff, where a lone steel globe marks the end of the world. Standing there, you're not just looking at a view, you're looking into infinity. The sea stretches out endlessly, cold and dark, beneath a sky that never fully sleeps. The midnight sun here is something else entirely. It doesn't just hover above the horizon, it bleeds into the sea, painting the sky in gold and orange for hours. In winter, the aurora turns the entire landscape into a ghostly green theater. North Cape is a paradox, remote yet visited by thousands, silent yet emotionally deafening. You don't come here for thrill or entertainment. You come to feel the full weight of geography, to understand what it means to stand at the very top of the world and feel the earth curve away beneath your feet. Flum might be a small village, but it delivers big, unforgettable experiences packed into one of the most beautiful fjord settings in the world. Tucked at the end of the Orlandsfjord, a branch of the mighty Sognefjord, Flum feels like it's been carved into the mountains by the hand of nature itself. The journey to get here is almost as legendary as the place. The Flum Railway, one of the steepest train lines in the world, winds through tunnels, over waterfalls and past valleys so dramatic they look CGI. When you arrive, everything slows down. The air is fresh, The water is clear, and the mountains rise around you like green fortresses. You can cruise the fjords on electric boats that glide silently through the water, kayak across mirror-like surfaces at sunrise, or hike to viewpoints like Stegastein that offer jaw-dropping panoramas. And if you're looking for adrenaline, the nearby zip line, the longest in Scandinavia, sends you flying over rivers and forests at speeds that leave your heart racing. Yet despite all this, Flom never feels crowded or commercial. It's the kind of place where you sit outside with a locally brewed beer in hand, watching the shadows move across the mountains, realizing that silence can be just as powerful as any sound. In Flom, nature isn't a backdrop, it's the main character, and you're just lucky to be part of the story for a while. Hardangerfjord is often called the Queen of the Fjords, and once you see it, you'll understand why. Stretching over 179 kilometers, it's the second longest fjord in Norway, and one of the most fertile, dramatic, and picturesque regions in the entire country. What makes Hardangerfjord so unique is the contrast. It's a place where fruit orchards cling to steep hillsides, waterfalls cascade down sheer cliffs, and glaciers loom in the distance like ancient sentinels. In spring, the entire region erupts in color as cherry and apple trees bloom in vibrant pinks and whites, transforming the landscape into something out of a fantasy novel. Villages like Odda and Ulvik sit quietly along the water, offering that perfect blend of rustic charm and jaw-dropping surroundings. But the real magic of Hardangerfjord is how alive it feels. Hike to the glacier at Folgefonna, and you're walking on ice that has shaped the landscape for thousands of years. Visit Vuringsfossen, and you'll feel the ground shake beneath your feet as one of Norway's highest waterfalls crashes into the valley below. Even just driving along the fjord is an experience. Tunnels cut through mountains, bridges leap across water, and every curve in the road reveals another vista more stunning than the last. Hardangerfjord doesn't scream for your attention. It sings to it, with a voice that echoes through mountains, waterfalls, and fields of blossom, inviting you to slow down, take it all in, and remember what real beauty feels like. Bergen is a city that doesn't rush to reveal itself. It unfolds gradually, like fog lifting from the fjords, and with every passing hour it pulls you deeper into its spell. Surrounded by 7 mountains and cradled by the North Sea, Bergen feels less like a modern city and more like a coastal myth still living and breathing through the centuries. Its heart is Bryggen, the UNESCO-protected wharf lined with centuries-old wooden buildings painted in weathered reds, oranges, and yellows, former merchant houses from the Hanseatic League era that now shelter artists' studios, museums, bakeries, and shops. The narrow alleys here, barely wide enough for 2 people to walk side by side, creak with history underfoot and smell of salt, smoke, and time. But Bergen is no relic. It's a cultural powerhouse, constantly reinventing itself through music, food, art, and design. Indie record stores and cafes sit next to old fishmongers, and it's just as easy to stumble upon a contemporary art gallery as it is to find a fisherman pulling up his catch of the day. Music pulses through the city, from open-air jazz sessions to intimate concerts held in candlelit bars, all reflecting Bergen's deeply creative soul. Then there's the rain. Bergen is famously wet, and while other places might treat rain as a nuisance, here it's embraced. Locals don't hide from it. They wear it, walk through it, live in it. The rain makes everything richer. The smell of pine in the forests, the glisten of cobblestones, the colors of the buildings against the gray sky. Take the Fløibanen funicular to the top of Mount Fløyen and look out across the city as it cascades down into the fjords like a mosaic of wood, stone, and sea. Or hike up Mount Ulriken, the tallest of the city's 7 peaks, and watch the sun, when it appears, cut through the clouds and light up the harbor like gold. Bergen is not loud or showy, it whispers. It's a city of texture, of layers, of contrasts, and once it gets under your skin, you won't want to leave. Jostedalsbreen Glacier is a silent titan, a massive, moving river of ice that has shaped the landscape of western Norway for thousands of years, and still today it dominates everything around it, not just in scale, but in spirit. Spanning nearly 500 square kilometers, it's the largest glacier on mainland Europe, yet it doesn't feel like a static landmark. It feels alive. You don't just visit Jostedalsbreen, you approach it with reverence. Whether you're standing at the foot of the Nygårdsbreen tongue, where chunks of ice the size of cars calve into the lake below, or hiking beside Briksdalsbreen with waterfalls thundering down on either side, the glacier commands silence. The color of the ice alone is mesmerizing. Deep, otherworldly blue where centuries of compacted snow have hardened into a solid mass, streaked with lines of black sediment that mark its endless, grinding journey through the mountains. As you hike across the moraine, rocky, raw, exposed earth left behind by the glacier's retreat, you can feel the weight of deep time pressing in. This is a landscape still being written. Glacial meltwater rushes past your boots, cold enough to bite, feeding into turquoise lakes that shimmer beneath impossibly steep cliffs. And when you strap on crampons and take a guided walk on the glacier itself, it's like entering another dimension. Crevasses open up like glowing scars in the ice, and the air is so clean, so sharp, it cuts through your lungs. But Jostedalsbreen is not just about physical awe, it's also about urgency. Climate change is carving into it faster than ever, and each visit might be different from the next. Every receding ice wall, every newly exposed valley tells a story, not just of the planet's past, but of its future. And in that frozen silence, beneath ancient ice and thunderous skies, you don't just see nature, you feel humbled by it. Arendal may not make the cover of every Norwegian travel guide, but those who find their way to this charming coastal town know it offers something special. A slower rhythm, a warmth that defies latitude, and a slice of southern Norway that feels like a living postcard. Nestled along the Skagerrak coast, Arendal has always been shaped by the sea. Its past wrapped in sails, shipyards, and maritime trade, and its present defined by sunny harbors, charming wooden homes, and a lifestyle that seems to move with the tides. The city center is built around the harbor, where fishing boats, sailboats, and ferries bob in rhythm with the water. Sit by the promenade at Pollen, order fresh shrimp on a slice of buttered bread, and you'll see what Arendal does best. It invites you to slow down. Wander up the steep hillsides and you'll find streets lined with white-painted wooden houses and blooming gardens, all overlooking the shimmering sea. Then there's Tyholmen, the old town, a maze of narrow alleys and historic buildings that whisper stories of merchant families, sea captains, and summer romances from decades past. Arendal has a strong cultural pulse, especially in summer when festivals take over the town. Literary events, jazz concerts, art exhibitions, all set against the backdrop of bright skies and endless daylight. Hop on a boat and you'll discover an entire world of islands just off the coast, like Murdo, where old pilot stations and sandy beaches invite you to forget time altogether. This is where Norwegians go to escape, not just tourists. The pace is slower, the days longer, and the connection to the sea constant. Arendal isn't dramatic or imposing. It's gentle, generous, and quietly radiant. It's the kind of place that doesn't overwhelm you with spectacle. It wins you over with light, with quiet mornings on the dock, and with the deep, unmistakable feeling that life doesn't have to be loud to be full. Nærøyfjord isn't just one of Norway's most beautiful fjords. It's one of the most awe-inspiring natural corridors on Earth. A place so narrow, so sheer, and so silent that it feels more like a dreamscape than a geographic feature. Tucked within the larger Sognefjord system and stretching only about 17 kilometers in length, Nærøyfjord may be short, but it hits with immense force. At its narrowest, the fjord is barely 250 meters wide, while mountains tower over 1,700 meters straight up on either side, their slopes often dripping with countless waterfalls that seem to fall from the clouds themselves. The water is deep and still, a mirror reflecting the cliffs, forests, and sky, broken only by the occasional ripple from a boat or a breeze. The name Norway comes from the Norse god Njord, ruler of the sea and winds, and it's no surprise, the place feels sacred, as if nature itself built a cathedral here and never told anyone. The villages that dot the shoreline, tiny, old, and often accessible only by boat, feel frozen in time, with grass-covered roofs and an almost complete absence of modern noise. Taking a silent electric boat through Norway Fjord is like floating through a forgotten world. And in winter, it transforms into something even more surreal. Snow-dusted peaks, icy waterfalls, and a light so soft and pale it seems to come from within the landscape itself. Norway Fjord isn't just scenic, it's profoundly moving. A UNESCO World Heritage Site, yes. But more than that, it's proof that silence, scale, and nature's untouched power can leave a deeper impression than anything man-made ever could.